Good evening, councillors. Welcome to the Neighbourhood Plan for Council meeting, which hopefully we will conclude by 8 o'clock in time to start a planning meeting which follows and which might be quite a busy one. Apologies for absence. We have an apology from the Mayor, which is why I'm sitting where I'm sitting. But as far as I'm aware, although we've got a couple of absentees, no further apologies at this point.
No.
Do we accept the apologies of the Mayor?
We do, yeah.
Good. Right, declarations of interest. We'll just run through them in the usual order. So, are there, first of all, any disclosable pecuniary interests? None. Are there any other interests? Any requests for dispensation? I suspect if anybody made one, we'd be absolutely staggered. Nobody would remember what it is we're supposed to do next, because I don't think we've ever actually had a request for dispensation since we started having those 3 years ago. Anyway, any inappropriate gifts or hospitality? Or anything over £50?
No.
Which takes us on to representations from interested parties. Now, there is nobody sitting here. I'm not aware of anybody attending for this meeting, although there are people attending for planning. Which suggests that, therefore, there is nothing for us to consider in terms of the requests from interested parties, which takes us rapidly on to the neighbourhood plan, the primary purpose of tonight's meeting. So, I'm sort of looking at you, Peter. Is there an update?
There's only me here. Tony's not turned up. So
Yes, so that's why I'm looking at you.
you're stuck with me. Okay, well, the neighbourhood plan, we've now seen, Roger and I have now seen basically all the developers apart from the Cotterstock Road development. But we've seen, last week we saw, I can never remember this, Whittingham, the Benfield Road site. We went about, obviously we talked about the 10 houses at the back of Wakeley Close and the other houses on the Benfield Road. He has guaranteed that we're going to get a good greenfield site there as well. So that's all done. All the others we've told you about anyway, and I've kept you informed of everything. Unfortunately, Richard Donahue could not do the consultancy because he has semi-retired. He's given me 3 different companies to contact. I got that on Saturday. Because of all the commitments I've had since then, I haven't actually contacted anybody because I just haven't had time. I was sort of doing the neighbourhood, the working party on Thursday, and then over the weekend we had a lot of work to do. So, and yesterday, what day is it today? Tuesday. Monday and Tuesday I was out collecting money for the Christmas tree. So I just haven't had time to do anything about that. But tomorrow I can concentrate on maybe getting the consultants lined up. So that's it to date. I will just add one point. I would say, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic about this, but if we can't get a consultant by the middle of October, we're not going to have a neighbourhood plan. I really don't think we're going to be able to go any further without a consultant, and if we can't get somebody by the middle of October, then we are looking at a downward trend because we haven't got the time. We literally won't have the time to get the SEAs done that the ENC want us to do. So it will be with great regret that we have to then go to Richard Palmer and hopefully get the neighbourhood plan embedded into the local plan.
Questions? Observations?
So yeah. Well, I'd like to thank Peter for his work, not just on this, on the Christmas tree and the bridge and everything else. He did a great job.
Yeah.
So, what worries me is that the ENC are treating us and the town with contempt. I think they knew our plan. They know that's based, well, you can correct me. They know it's based on the views of the community. And they seem to be totally ignoring it. They were there at our meetings, well, we said all this before, and they didn't raise the objections before, and now they're producing a huge site on the edge of Glapthorne of our town, for which our infrastructure will have to run it, basically. And it's a Christopher Drive, and I don't think the community is really going to accept that unless we actually stand up and say something about it, or stand up to them, they will not think much of us, quite frankly.
I'll just explain where I've been coming from. Before I made it sort of, to tell you about the fact that we might not have a neighbourhood plan because we can't go to consultants. I have been playing, if you like, sort of fairly reasonable with the ENC because I didn't want to put their backs up against anything. But I totally agree with you. They have totally pulled the rug from underneath our feet. There's no doubt about that. That's the situation that's going on. And once I know that we can't get a consultant, like the North Bridge, well, I'll explain that to you as well, we will start playing hardball. And we will really start to hit them and really go for them, because I think we have to.
I agree.
I don't think there's any other way.
I think we've got to get the people of Amble behind us, moaning at them, otherwise they're going to moan at us.
Yeah, well, I think we should have an emergency town meeting for a lot of this, because I think the neighbourhood plan and the North Bridge really need to be put out there for everybody to understand. I mean, because we all know that we keep having comments from people, oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not. We're working, Tony and I really worked really hard, and Roger on the neighbourhood plan, and it really does need now Oundle to know just how much the council has done, because I think that's really important.
Absolutely, 100% agree.
If we were going to have a public meeting, how soon, in a sense, do you think we should be aiming to hold it? As soon as next month?
I would say yes. We've got to get in before the end of November at the latest.
Well, it has to come from what you've just said, and I thank you once again, as all been said for everything you've done. But as soon as we know we haven't got a consultant, that's our action plan.
Exactly.
As soon as we know we can't get one, and we might get one, so let's not worry about that. But as soon as we've got one,
I've given myself a couple
that's
of
our
weeks.
kick point.
Yeah.
That's our start point for a campaign of sorts. And that's when we have the public meeting. That's when we kickstart that. That's when we kickstart an action.
Yeah.
That's good.
Even if we have got one, I still think we ought to bring it to the attention of the community.
You see, I'm quite happy with that, Malcolm, because I think we should combine it with the neighbourhood plan and the North Bridge, because I think they're equally as important to Oundle. And I don't think enough people realise just how bad that this town will be affected by either.
Yes. I think especially
the last time that neighbourhood plan was updated with people of Oundle.
They had, I can't remember. You'll know, Roy. You'll know when you did the public consultations, won't you? Because I wasn't involved then, so I don't know.
Was it January, February, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Full consultation was early part of this year. Yeah.
So by that time, had we hit this brick wall with
No, at that time, principal planning officers from ENC and the head of their planning committee attended a meeting at the Queen Victoria Hall where we gave the plan to the town. I presented it, they presented it with me. They were 100% supportive of what we were doing. There's one or two things we've known that they don't like, but they seem to be doing exactly the same things as they told us, advised us not to do. But they haven't said, you can't have this neighbourhood plan at any stage. They haven't said it's wrong, stop it, we're not going ahead with it. They were supportive of it, fully supportive. And they answered a lot of the questions with me in that meeting. And this was February and March when we did the public consultation.
Meeting in November, it'll be getting up to 12 months.
Well, as I say, I think
It's time to put it back to the public, isn't it?
I think so, and I think, you see, if we can get the public behind us, and we really need to obviously get the three ENC councillors involved with this as well, Jay Phil and Richard, I think we need to get them involved with it as well, because we need to make sure that ENC realise that Oundle is not going to be a pushover.
Yeah.
I mean,
One of them won't be because he's on the scrutiny, I think that's what they call it, the scrutiny committee at ENC, that's Councillor Jake Bowles. So he will want to stay out of that so that he's able to act impartially at the any investigation at a later stage. So he will probably not want to get involved. Even if he's supportive of it, he won't want to be involved. But the other two, I agree, should be in here and involved with us on this.
Just out of curiosity, Peter, do you know, or does anyone know, have ENC got their local plan sorted out? Is that all? Is this because they haven't done their work? Is this a knock-on?
what they're trying to tell us is that they've got their neighbourhood plan basically sorted out, and they want to publish it. They're going to publish it really in January, February time. They said December, but it's January, February time. And they want to push ahead with that. Now, to do that, they really don't want all the SEEs that we were going to put into our neighbourhood plan. They're only interested in 3 sites, and they've already said that. And they want 500 houses in. And they've already said that. But you see, the thing is, and what's happened with Roy's plan, if you like, because I'll call it Roy's plan, because obviously you were the main architect of it, is that at that time they weren't told to do SEEs and cross-reference them. We have then been told by Richard, after that's all gone through, when they rejected it, that we have to have all these SEAs and they have to be cross-referenced with our basically 5 sites, although we had 7 sites in there. They classed 2 of the sites as windfall sites, so they weren't worried about those. But of course that's the problem. We need now to get a consultant to do the SEAs, and 2 months really, if you think about it, is not really enough time.
That's not entirely correct what you said about the SCAs and HRAs. What happened with the previous consultant, James, that we had back in 2016, he actually submitted in late, I forget the exact date, September, October, something like that, of 2016, he submitted the SEAs and HRAs to ENC, and nothing came back to say they were unacceptable at that time. I picked them up as part of our plan when somebody said we haven't got this bit done. They said it can run in parallel with Regulation 14 to start with, and then they said afterwards, they said you should do this before Regulation 14, but actually they said it can run in parallel with the public consultation, as long as you get it done in parallel with it, and you present it to the public at some stage. So they were happy with that, and I took the work that James had done, the previous, I can't remember his surname. Sorry?
James Wilson.
James Wilson. Took his work and updated it really. All the stuff was in there. He gave very good reasons why we were talking about 7 sites, and said that none of the 7 sites stood out as being different from any of the others. Therefore, he treated them all the same and produced SEA and HRA forms to cover the lot. And as far as we knew, they had gone to ENC and been presented forward from there to wherever they go next. And we were under the impression that all of that work had been completed and everybody was happy with it. It was then one of the principal engineers at Mike Burton, I think it was, at ENC, then said, you need to do these again, you need to represent these. So we did. And that's when Richard Palmer, another one of the principal engineers, came along to say they need to be done for each individual site. But at that stage, I was actually with you that evening when Councillor Stern rang me and said he'd spoken to his planning officers. They were going to complete, they'd got to do it for the district plan anyway. They'd got to do all these SEAs and HRAs for the entire district plan. Ours in amongst that was minuscule. What they offered to do was to do our bit as well, run it in as one project. That's correct, isn't it? Run it as one project. They would pay for it, and we would then, that work would be complete. So they were going to do that. Now that was about the time where my involvement in neighbourhood plan then completed.
So what, because obviously, I mean, I'm getting two sides of the story. Obviously, with you saying the SEAs are done, Richard's telling me they weren't done. And I've got emails from them saying that they weren't done, and therefore the neighbourhood plan wasn't completed.
I updated the work that James did and I sent it through. He had it by email. They acknowledged receipt of it, I'm sure, and they had all that stuff back then. They commented on it that they wanted individual ones. They haven't had individual ones from me.
Oh, I see, yes.
So that might be what he's saying. He never wants to see individual ones.
So did you in that case then, did you cross-reference all the sites? Because you see, he's telling us that he wants individual SEAs and cross-referencing of all the individual SEAs for the neighbourhood plan.
Well, as I
And
say,
that we'd never done them.
it was a combined one, but all the sites were named in there, and the details were given, and the fact was made that the point was made that the details were the same for all 7 sites.
But have you got that information? Because I can't find it in any of the paperwork I've got.
I will have it somewhere.
Well, can
Stuff
you
I
email
sent
it?
off to, I'll dig it out and send it.
Because that would actually save a lot of time if we get a consultant.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
what Tony, you'll know, they didn't actually say anything about SEAs, did they? We hadn't got any.
Who's that?
Richard Palmer.
Yeah, Richard's, no, he's claiming we've got the individual sites, but which I don't think we have got, but we haven't got the joint ones. Yeah.
Yeah, but you see,
It's the other way around.
Roy's saying he's got a joint
I'm saying
ones,
that the-
but we haven't got the individual ones.
Yeah. So, but, we know we haven't got a problem with it.
No,
Yeah, it's just a job that's got to be done, and there's no problem with us doing it now, which
No.
is what we now do.
exactly.
Yeah, so,
But without the consultant, we can't finish that off. Yeah.
I think the bigger point is that they know very well what the people around all want, and they know what the constraints are, and they're totally ignoring it.
Oh, yeah,
And
they are.
this is quite clearly an excuse to reject our plan.
No, no,
And I
but
think we have to make that clear. I don't know if we can put anything in the next Oracle. When's the next Oracle?
Coming out.
Yeah, it's coming out.
Language.
Yeah.
Well, an opportunity to start.
Yeah.
Maybe there should be a special edition of the Oracle. To put it all in, all of this, you know, without all the flim-flam, just put it down as a special issue. To put it all in, so everyone get it, people that can't get to a meeting that we're going to have.
I think, you see, if we do that, we've got to put the North Bridge in it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All the things that would normally go, that you suggested might go into a public meeting, as we know, but they're fairly well attended, but they're not fully attended.
No.
So, but the Oracle does touch virtually every address, so it could be.
But the Oracle is our main communication method, to be honest. In terms of actively, directly going into households.
Yeah,
So it's our primary communication.
I mean, there should be other ones. The other one.
Yes, but it's our primary one.
Yeah.
And I think therefore we could either do it as an Oracle. I might actually believe that it should be an Oracle plus an attachment. So a separate document which is specifically to do with the MP. And then all the other bits, because otherwise you're going to find the Oracle be swapped. There's lots of other things to put in the Oracle apart from, I mean, it's important, but I think actually it should be a separate document that outlines what's
We
going on.
should have a banner front page then.
Yeah.
You know, there should be something on it that says, don't throw this little supplement that's in it away.
No.
Read it.
It would be important.
Yeah.
Councillor Chester.
I'm all for that,
But I do think a public meeting might be useful.
Oh, no,
Because we
it was
could then
well, it was.
gauge
Yeah,
how
yeah.
people feel.
Absolutely.
So I'm coming a bit late, but I think the public meeting has to.
That's not, that happens as well.
Almost certainly, if we're going to go down that route, then on the next full council agenda there will have to be an item in connection with neighbourhood plan and including the calling of a public meeting,
Yes.
which I agree almost certainly will have to be a double issue public meeting, which can be publicised at least in part through either a standard oracle or a standard plus oracle, however you look at it. Yet again, it's going to involve a certain number of people and a considerable amount of work in a short period of time, but such is life.
What have ENC got to gain by rejecting our neighbourhood plan?
The local plan.
Well, you might well ask.
More houses.
They get more houses
Yeah.
because of the unitary authority.
Where they want them.
And
I think-
they're disappearing.
I think probably one of the issues is always going to be this requirement on the planning authority to have a 5-year land supply. And I think that what worried them was that if the numbers in Oundle were restricted to the sort of level that was talked about in the joint core strategy, plus a bit, it didn't give them as much wriggle room as if they put in the number of houses that quite clearly they've got developers interested in. And my fear is that that's what's driven it in part. And as Council again says, completely against the fact that the public here have made abundantly clear that they don't want to go massively over the amount of houses suggested in the joint core strategy. They don't want super large sites, and they preferred the idea of spreading them around the town. And what we've got is a district council who, in the face of that, are doing almost the exact opposite. It's almost willfulness. However, we could probably go on and on and on this particular
Can I
subject.
just say one more thing?
All right, one
I
more.
think if we're going to have a publicised oracle and town meeting, we really shouldn't take it any further than the beginning of November before we have these meetings, because otherwise people aren't going to come out anyway, 'cause it's going to be getting colder and darker and things like that.
It's a tight time scale to make it the beginning, but it might be possible to do
I'd
it
rather
by
do it
the early
properly
middle.
than rushed.
No, I mean, you know, if we can sort of, the trouble is, we've only got a month or so after that before they want to publish their local plan.
Okay, so
Yes.
I think then that's fair.
It'd be nice to try and torpedo it before it started.
Exactly.
Did I really say that? Never mind.
They would have been by November, end of November, December, they would have been expecting a referendum under the
Yes,
proposals we had early on in the year, where the plan was going to go through Reg 14 in about February and March, and then we were going to do Regulation 16 about July, August, and then on to a referendum. So they must be wondering what on earth's happened to that. They're going to get an awful shock when they find themselves at a town meeting and find it's not a referendum.
That's good.
That's even better.
Yeah. The more we can stop
It
them.
would be both of them, a referendum and meeting.
All right. It almost follows as night follows day that the next item on the agenda is perhaps slightly...
David.
Okay.
So, just one question about the purpose of the meeting. If we're to have a town meeting and the only purpose of the town is to tell them that we're in a mess, there'll be a lot of disappointment. So, what is the actual objective of the meeting?
I think we'll obviously need it in a sense, because this has only come up tonight. It wasn't specifically on the agenda, but it will be for the next meeting, so people can have a good think about that. I mean, my view is it's difficult to sell this as a positive message because we've got two major problems, neither of which are entirely within our control. However, the public deserve to know what we've been doing over the last few months, what the problem is, what the implications are, and where that's likely to take us in terms of potentially no neighbourhood plan and a local plan that may be very, very far from what the aspirations of this town almost certainly are. And so far as the North Bridge is concerned, I mean, it is an information meeting as much as anything else, it seems to me.
Can I just make one positive comment?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry,
As it's
I do
positive,
apologise.
I'll finish on the note.
I don't want to sort of drag on about this. You see, I think if we have the town meeting, the one thing that we could actually get a positive out of it is that the Oundle Town Council is actually trying to tell people in Oundle about the problems we're getting with the ENC. We're promoting our neighbourhood plan, we still want our neighbourhood plan, but we have to tell them about the problems we're having with the ENC. And if we can do it that way, I think the council will actually come out of it on a positive note, and hopefully...
It's transparency, I think that's very...
Yeah.
It's both.
We're putting our cards on the table. Right.
Well, it shows we're actually doing something. We're
Yes.
actually doing something with the people.
Sure, I've got things to say.
Are we all done on the update?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the next item on the agenda was to do with authorising a budget for a consultant, but since we haven't actually got to the stage of having a consultant, we can't very easily approve a budget for it.
This is very true.
So it seems to me that that has to be deferred to the next full council meeting and put it on that same agenda.
Should we be setting aside some money, just in case we find something, so they can...
Well, we have.
Well,
We've
there's
got
some money
£7,000
already in the budget,
of it.
and there is money in the overall budget, potentially, and I think that's all one can say at this stage. It may just be worth an observation to those of you who are not on planning, that provided that this time it really happens, we are expecting Paul Bland from ENC Planning to be at our planning meeting. Now, he was supposed to have been at the last one, and it fell through at the last before. And the invitations have been extended every month since January, but as at roughly 7:30, I am expecting him here in half an hour. It would be a shame, in a sense, if that became entirely dominated by issues around the neighbourhood plan, because I know that those of us who are interested in planning may very well have some other questions for him as well. But all councillors are welcome, of course, to attend that, and it may be that a number of you will feel inclined to do so, and possibly to ask him questions around the neighbourhood plan issue. Which takes us on to whatever the next item is on the agenda. Yes.
Another deferral, I think.
Yes. I'm kind of looking at Lisa and asking,
I spoke to Jerry and he said it's going to have to be deferred to the next meeting. It's again, costings haven't come in yet, so it'll have to be deferred to the next meeting.
I'd still like to talk about the process and where we stand on it. So I think we should go into closed session.
well, if you wish to make a proposal, understanding orders that we do, if it's seconded and carried, we will.
Okay, I propose we do.
What's this, to go through the...
So,
To go
Councillor Glenn would like to discuss certain issues in closed session, bearing in mind that they relate to employment issues and, in effect, to one specific employee. It seems to me that if there is going to be a debate, it ought to be in private.
Won't take long, will it?
So,
We can't take long, we've got to finish at 8.
absolutely.
Well, it won't take long.
I have a piece to do about Sunday as well, so I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favour, please indicate. Seems to me that in the circumstances we have a choice. One, so we can check. Those against?
What, the closed session?
Against going into closed session.
No, I'm in favour of closed session, I just don't want to discuss it.
Well, that's another issue in a minute. Okay, against closed session, and any abstentions, because I've lost track, yes,
I'll call myself
as well. Right.
Have we
I
got
think,
none?
in fact, we've still got a narrow majority in favour of the closed session. So, if we can turn off the recording now, we will resume the meeting. Do councillors feel?
Is the recorder back on? Just to...
Yeah, I believe we are now recording and the doors are once again open. Do councillors feel that, albeit that it isn't on the agenda, It was certainly my view that I thought it was going to be, and if Councillor Fuller can do it in a couple of minutes,
Do it a couple of
I
minutes.
suspect we can manage to get that in and North Bridge. But
Having,
are people happy to move
and
it?
set the timer, because I'll stop at 2 minutes. I mean it.
Councillor Fuller.
Right, it's called Exercise Brewer. I only got the plan today. I will send the plan to all of you tonight. I've only literally received it. I've had a very busy day, but I've got it this afternoon. It's basically an exercise within, which is rather interesting, because we've been in a similar situation for real a couple of years ago, and this is actually how we do it now, as opposed to how we did it then. So it's the testing the joint arrangements of the voluntary sector in Northamptonshire. We've got I didn't know there were such things as British Red Cross volunteers coming out of the woodwork. And the idea is that we are involved. There's going to be 8 local areas involved, but we're the floods of Arundel. So what we've got is some Arundel Schools children involved as part of the drama to act as casualties, and they're going to set up the main office is going to be ENC, but actually Arundel's going to have its own thing. They've got a thing at Fletton House where we're going to have casualty evacuations and stuff like that, including a leaflet drop around Arundel, which is detailed in here of all the streets we're going to have to do. And the idea is to help make people aware of what's going on, make the flood, the areas that have flood, possible flood issues will be getting a leaflet drop, and the exercise will take place throughout the day, and it's just testing a lot of things. I mean, effectively, how the emergency services react, and that's what it's about. I think you're very welcome to come in on the day if you wish to. The timetable is in the plan, but effectively it's for testing my role a bit. Yeah, we've got 2 more flood warners in hand, the ones that arrived today. So it's basically the sort of thing that we would be expected to do. And I would point out the fact that some of the council, in fact only a few councillors will remember the serious floods we had about 4 years ago, and we were literally 30 minutes away from evacuating people. And unfortunately, the rain stopped. So I was ready to put them in the CCF, in the cadet. So this is how it's done now. The thing is, it's changed. There's an emergency planning group for Northamptonshire, as opposed to having it regionally by the Environment Agency, and this is a chance for them to show what they can do. That's it. Is that all right? But you're going to you'll get the document which I've got, which is 41 pages.
Sorry.
Any questions for Councillor Fuller? Okay, conscious of time, can we move on? Yeah, can we move on to North Bridge and an update, please? And I'm sort of looking again, I have to say, towards Councillor Peel, because I suspect that he's probably the one who's best placed to tell us, and if he thinks it's somebody else, no doubt he'll point us in a different direction.
Okay, well, let's start with the North Bridge, because obviously we've had, I don't know if you noticed, and I don't know if everybody's seen this, but Northamptonshire Highways have actually published this. Has everybody seen this? Yeah. And this basically says that they're going to put a 3-ton weight limit. They haven't bothered to actually ask if there's any other schemes. In fact, they haven't actually bothered to tell us anything about any other schemes. So what we've done is we had a meeting on Thursday where we presented Tom Purse-Club with a complete alteration of the scheme to up to a 7.5-ton scheme, which Tony brought in. You've had, I hope, the minutes of the Tom Purse-Club meeting, and he quite clearly wants us now to, and he's going to do it as well, to talk to the NCC and really make them listen. Now, the only way we can do that, and I've talked to Tony this morning about emailing Ian Morris. We intend to email Ian Morris with all the emails that Tony's already sent to him, which he has ignored. He's never come back to Tony. I'm emailing Ian Morris tomorrow to say, look, you've got to sort this out now. If you don't sort this out now, then I have every intention of going to the radio, the TV, the papers. I will put his name all over the place if he does not answer our emails and fix a meeting with Arundel Town Council, because it is that serious We do not and cannot accept just the one system that is put in place. It is not the right system for Oundle, and it will not do. The other thing that we're doing is we're also going to make NCC accountable for why they still have not given us a traffic flow system that would suit Oundle. They've not done it. They've said, oh, it'll be another 2 months. We haven't got 2 months. They could put the bollards up on Northbridge tomorrow. They don't need planning permission. It's not a good situation. We've now got to act with urgency and with some, I wouldn't say force, but with some high degree of insistence that they now sit down and talk to this council, especially to Tony, because he's the brains behind all this. I'm not. I'm just a mouthpiece. To get this thing moving and get it moving properly. And that's the update so far. Do you want to put anything in, Tony?
No, just we're very pleased with the support that we had from Tom Pursglove. Yeah, he was very
It was really, really
Got
good.
the issues straight away. He read all the documents. He said he was going across to Northampton later on that day, and was looking at the conversation with Ian Morris himself. So he was very frustrated. He asked also whether Heather Smith had been involved, and I reported that she'd been very involved and very supportive of what we were doing. That the same frustration.
That's it.
Can I just make a comment?
Councillor Chess.
Terry, I was massively impressed, but unhappy in a sense, by your presentation of the history. I had no idea.
I'm sorry it made you unhappy.
I was really shocked,
Yeah.
because this is a situation that we were not made aware of. Since when, 1983?
We have had
Did we know that? We didn't, did we?
We've had more conversation here about Pat's testing of our Christmas tree lights than they have had about our church.
Absolutely fabulous.
I'm hoping Ian's going to put Tony's...
Yeah, I was going to ask you a
Tony's
question about
plan.
that. Just so that we're all agreed with what I might do. There's about 2,000 people following the Facebook site that we've done for Northbridge, including lots of interested lorry drivers asking what's happening, when's it happening, when they can make deliveries. Are we happy if I put these things on that I sent around earlier? First of all, that we say we had a good meeting with Tom last week. Can we put those minutes?
Well, these I made it perfectly clear with everybody and to Tom that these were public minutes. They weren't private. These were minutes that you could actually publish without any problems at all.
Brilliant. The other thing is we have been publishing that NCC document, which isn't on their own website. We know they've sent it out to people in Anglia.
Oh yeah, again, you see, this is they've actually publicised this, so there's no reason why we can't put that on the
And
Facebook.
are
None
we
at all.
okay putting Tony's excellent report?
I think we've got to. I think we've got
I was
to do
also
that.
wondering whether it might be worth putting some printed copies around in downstairs in the hub, maybe told at coffee tavern if I talk to people and if they're happy with that. If they're okay, so people can make
Well, again, that's the reason I think we need the town meeting, because we need to get these points over. And the more people that see these points, the more people that understand these points, then hopefully Oundle can actually do something about
It's a
it.
precursor to the meetings and to the
Oh yeah, of
so
course.
all of it.
Yeah.
It just instantly raises awareness and people actually know what we're trying to do.
The last thing is, it was raised in your meeting, I think, that Tom wanted people to email Matt Golby direct. I've checked his emails in the public domain. Are we happy that we put that on the Facebook site, saying email him, put these statements?
I don't see any problem with that at all.
Tom said his address is on the NCC website, so it's in the public domain.
Yeah, no problem with that at all.
Tom, to me, you just said go for it.
That's right.
Oh, that's what we're going to do. That's the intention now of the working party, is to go for it. And we're going to go for it hard.
It might be, so we might have to host one or two things on the Oundle Town Council website to link to Facebook. But if that's the case, I'll let you know tomorrow. Brilliant. Thank you.
Good stuff.
Fine. Thanks
That's
for
it.
everybody who's been involved in all the hard work so far, but that hard work isn't over.
No.
by any stretch of the imagination. Yes. There are some words of Mr. Churchill that start to come to mind here, but maybe it's a little early to invoke that spirit. I'm conscious of the fact that we are moving towards 8 o'clock. Is there anything else on North Bridge?
Oh no, sorry, that's it. There's
Right.
nothing else we can do at the
The
moment.
only other thing on our agenda is any other matters for report. I've got to start somewhere. I'll start at that side and work my way around.
Mark's come back to me. Start there.
I haven't.
Sorry.
All right, I'll start that end. If it keeps people happier.
Can I just thank Peter and Tony again for the work they've been doing? It's been remarkable.
Yes. They're brilliant.
Yeah. That's all.
Nothing from me now.
People in New Road are saying they're having great difficulty getting out of their houses or out of their drives with their cars because of the amount of traffic that is going pretty fast.
Never mind. Very soon there will be no traffic moving up and down New Road because there is so much water coming down New Road
I said
again.
I would report it. You
That
never know when.
one feels that they are likely to start digging it up and closing it all over again.
And my whole
It is very wet in New Road currently, again.
Is it?
Um,
Oh, right.
so we've got the further problem there on top of the standard traffic problems, but you know, I think we're all very conscious
No, there's a single
of the
one
issues.
at my house.
So yes. Councillor Sparks?
No, nothing to add.
Councillor Peel?
Yeah, Christmas tree. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. Right, now.
The Christmas tree.
Sorry?
Great success.
Well, there's a little bit more to say. We've now raised, Sue was out this afternoon, I was out, I was actually in Boston today and managed to get 50 quid off the Coaching In group. So we've now got up to a figure of £540. It looks as though we probably will reach 7 at least. What I would suggest, and I hope the council won't object to this, is that we need about £500 for the lights. So we're going to have maybe £200 spare, maybe slightly more depending on how much comes in the post, because there are quite a few people sending cheques in over the next 2 or 3 days. There's two things. Firstly, I'd like, if we can, to either A, ask the library if they need any more toys for the children, and if we do, buy the toys for them and give them to the library. Or B, if they don't, I would like to give toys to the Trussell Fund in Oundle, the Methodist Church, to give to the children who might not have any toys for Christmas.
Can I just ask a question? Might there be an extra cost in getting power to it because...
That's all been sorted out.
That's sorted
Yeah,
out.
I've sorted that out. The people are coming down tomorrow to deal with the pack testing and everything for the lights. And we've already agreed to buy the lights from the same supplier, and he's agreed to put everything into the power sections that we have already. So there shouldn't be hopeless.
Shouldn't we?
Once again, thank you very much. Excellent. Councillor Stagg? Sorry.
Well, the only thing I've failed on, to be honest, and I must admit, I've not been able to get the sleigh that the Rotary use, because I wanted to take that round the town, as the Rotary did, to get more charitable donations. But unfortunately, they're having an argument with the Rotary, are having an argument with the man that actually built it, because he wants it back, because the Rotary are not using it. And the Rotary say, no, it's mine, so they won't be able to, this chap said, no, we're not letting the council use it anyway, so.
Oh well, the spirit of Christmas is just about alive. Councillor Stagg?
Yes, I have got
Fuller.
Right, just quickly, flood scale. But for those who remember, we've been part of the Pathfinder flood investigation for about a year, where someone has actually been around and done a proper flood review of Oundle. And what they want to do is to present it. Now, if we're doing this meeting, and we're trying to find a date, it makes sense that we have some good news to present I'm just thinking on my feet, because obviously I wasn't aware about the meeting, but actually it'd be a good point to bring them in on that day. The other thing is, if you want to make a meeting to talk about nice things, I've realised that on the A14, that they're building the A14 motorway, there is actually a vehicle that comes with all the information about that, which you can book for free for your town. So if we could get our eggs in order, what it is, the ducks in order, we could have some positive news to bring into that meeting, not just talking about neighbourhood plan and everything else. The floods being one, it's all to do with the same sort of topic in some respect, and the major route going through Cambridge. So if you're happy with that, then we could organise that. Try and see if we can do it once we get there. Does that sound reasonable?
As long as the North Bridge isn't closed by then.
It's not a big lorry.
My only concern with suddenly we started out with one thing on the agenda, now we've got three.
Well, no, this thing is not an agenda item, A14M. It's simply having a vehicle which
No.
we can go to.
Sorry, I thought you meant
The pathfinder thing is a flood, but actually I think it's important because it's part of the town. It actually relates to the neighbourhood plan as well as to the bridge in some respects, because they're all related to the water. Surrounded by, and I think it does have something to do with it. It's a good time to do it.
I don't disagree, it's important. What my concern is that from one important thing, now we've got three.
It's up to you.
Maybe we should just have a table.
Well, they do want to present it.
Yeah.
Well,
It could be something that we could do after the meeting. It's up to you. I'm not going to worry about it, but I'm just throwing it out there.
We don't water down the real issue.
Yeah. I'm sure it was unintentional. Yeah.
If you don't think it's a good idea,
I can see both the reasons for doing it and the reasons arguably for not doing it, but I think we're running out of time tonight, so let's look at that at the next meeting.
Have a good splash.
Councillor Oakes, finally. Anything? No. I have nothing to add. It seems to me it's almost exactly 8 o'clock to close the meeting.
good, bad. Well done, sir.